Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Very nice to, I wish I could say to see all of you, but I cannot because I have all the lights in my face. We are opening the traditional new media, telecom, internet session of the President Conference, as we have every year. We have great 7 panelists, and on the second row, I already see our good friend and regular participant from the crowd, Dr. Ruth. So we are all set to start. I would like to call, we will have, as usual, 2 panels. The first panel will address more of content issues. The second panel, more of infrastructure, services, and enterprise issues. And I would like to call for the first panel the 3 participants. Tim Armstrong, the CEO of AOL. Tim, please. Please receive Tim. Guys, you look to me a little bit sleepy. Tim is entitled, he came all the way from New York, which is far away, is entitled to a bigger round of applause. What about a little bit of screams? Anybody willing to stand up and to move the hands for Tim? Tim, thank you for coming. It's not an easy trip, we know. Second, the one and only Maurice Levy, CEO of Publicis. Maurice, this was a satisfactory reception, or you need a better one?
I would like a better one.
And last but not least, our good friend, Rich Gelfond, the chairman of the board of IMAX. Gelfond, do we have IMAX screens in Israel?
Yes, we do, Yossi.
How many?
Only 2.
Only 2. And how many you want to see here?
About 20.
Anybody who went into IMAX last year, raise your hand. Okay, you can do a better job of...
Okay.
A round of applause for Gelfond. As you know the rule, we will start with getting the perspective of these gentlemen and in what's going to happen in their industry in the next 3 to 5 years. So Tim, why don't we start with you? Maybe you will tell us first what your company is focusing now at and how you think this is going to develop, maybe mentioning 3 properties of you, 5 minutes. TechCrunch, Huffington Post, but you take it from here, please.
Actually, I think we should start with a vote of who wants to hear about what I talk about or Dr. Ruth talk about your sex life.
Let's
have a vote.
This will be a very short session.
But an interesting one. So first, it's great to be in Israel, and there's 2 people here, both to my left and my right, who have been inspirations for our company and friends for a really significant amount of time. AOL's been invested in Israel since 1999 with Yossi, and I think from a game-changing part of the company, I think the Yossi connection with ICQ was a game changer for AOL. And recently, in the last 2 years, we've invested very heavily in video through the acquisition of 5min with Hunan, Ron, and Tal, who are all here. So
they are here. Just a minute. Can you please put the light on?
Where are
and
they?
Ron and Ofer, can you stand up? Anybody from AOL, can you stand up?
Where are they?
You have to wave to the other.
So Amir and Adi also. But they're a group of people that have really changed the trajectory of AOL, and it's an honor to be here and spend a lot of time here, so I appreciate it. I think in the future there's a few mega trends that we're really interested in and focused on, and some of them are probably going to affect our industry a lot. One is what I would call the closed internet, where the internet 5 years ago, 10 years ago was truly browser driven and open. And when you look at all the hardware companies, service companies, network companies, and what's happening, everybody's trying to authenticate people and get people into more closed systems, almost back to where AOL had started. And our strategy as a company has been to invest in brands which will be able to go across the ecosystem. So we have spent a lot of time and energy changing AOL from a single brand company into a multi-brand company, and trying to invest in the most human brands we can find. And that's the second mega trend, is the internet and mobile. They're very, very good at essentially allowing very specific human behavior to get faster, easier, better. And we've done a lot of research and studying to go through specific areas of human behavior where we want to invest heavily. One of them is the Huffington Post, and the reason is that people really want trusted information sources. And while the internet has a lot of user-generated content, the urbanization that's happening offline with cities is happening online, where people are going around trusted brands. And I think we're making big investments in brands that we think will sit inside those ecosystems overall as a business. Another area that we think is going to have a very dramatic shift, and I would love to hear Maurice's perspective on this, is video. That video is probably the largest consumer opportunity, where more than half the internet traffic today is video, and it looks like it's going to go to 90% over the next few years. And the device companies, the networks are going to get faster, so the chances of video being a very big mega trend on mobile, desktop, tablet, and plasma is another area that we're really, really interested in. And the last area is in the advertising business, where we have a really large partnership with Publicis and have for years. And that business, we feel like, is going to get bifurcated into two areas. We call it the barbell. On one side of it is very, very heavy programmatic, the machine-to-machine trading of advertising. And on the other side of it is very, very deep marketing services, where there's online and offline components to advertising. And as a giant thesis in the media business, we believe that the internet is already at the point where it's sort of erased the difference between online and offline. And we want to be really big investors in something above that, which is the human aspects of how technology works in the media business, both from a brand perspective and from an advertising perspective.
Thank you, Tim. How many years you are now in AOL?
There's about a little over 6,000 people at AOL.
No, how many years?
Oh,
I know my
years?
accent
how many
is
years?
problematic.
7,000.
7,000 years
I've
you
been at
are
AOL. Yes.
7,000
it's
years.
I've been there for just 4 years.
4 years, but it looked like 7,000.
It feels like 7,000. Yes.
Okay. The first 2 years, I think, were quite challenging, right?
Yeah.
And then somehow you almost doubled the price of the stock in the other 2 years. What made the difference? Was it just the buying of 5 minutes, or there were some other things which created this huge difference?
I think the 5 min people believe it was about 90% 5 min, but it was really two things. One was taking very dramatic risks to change what the company was focused on and kind of leapfrog. In the United States, or in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, the famous hockey player, has a saying, you have to skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it is. So we decided to go very heavily into content, very heavily into video 2 or 3 years ago, before it was popular. Now, the next version after social is content. Everybody's talking about how content is going to be affecting the future of the web, and we went there early. The second piece was we made decisions to stop doing things. And I think when you look at AOL's history, probably the biggest thing that helped us change the company was a very big decision to sell assets, to stop doing things, and to get very focused. So that was very difficult, very hard, very challenging, but the combination of those two decisions have made a big difference.
Okay, thank you. Can you put the light on? Technician, yeah. Anybody who is involved in a video company in Israel, raise your hand. Anybody who want to talk to Tim about it, raise your hand. Anybody who want to talk to Tim in general, raise your hand. Tim, what is your email address?
My email address is tim.armstrong@teamaol.com. And I'm just going to tell you a funny story. The last time Yossi asked me that question, I was at the garage in Tel Aviv, and I told people, and the next morning in the newspaper in Tel Aviv, my email address was on the, so I spent about a year and a half digging out from VC and Israeli-based companies who wanted to deal with AOL.
We want to engage you, you know,
Okay.
and you...
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tim, for the time being. Maurice. Tim, it seems they liked you. They spontaneously applauded. I didn't ask them to
I'm
applaud.
only looking for Dr. Roos' approval. That's it.
Do we have a roving microphone? Do we have a roving microphone? Maurice, what's going on in the advertisement world, and how many prizes you are going to harvest this year in Cannes? And what is your view on the future, and what are you doing in Israel as a start?
Are you sure it's only this?
We will come with some other ideas while you speak.
Okay, so let's start with Boker Tov. It's a pleasure to be again here in Jerusalem, not only to see Dr. Ruth, who is the real star of the day, and this meeting is just an excuse to have her interactivity with us, and I'm pleased to serve as a counterpart to Dr. Bruce. Regarding the industry, what we see is a huge change in the way we are communicating with our people, the way our messages are built, and how they are co-produced, are co-generated with the consumers under
הצרכנים ובעצם ההתפתחויות האינסופיות של האינטרנט, וברור ומואל בעצם נתן לכם דוגמה מצוינת למה שמתרחש פה. אנחנו לא יכולים היום לדמיין קמפיין בלי להכניס ולשקלל את השיקול גם הזה של מערכת היחסים ובינינו לבין הצרכן והרב ערוציות של האינטרנט, כלומר שהוא הרבה מעבר לחיפוש ותצוגה, וכמובן העולם הגדול היום זה וידאו. ואם מסתכלים על מה שקורה ב10 שנים האחרונות, זה מאוד מאוד מרשים. האינטרנט פשוט נקבר בבועה, כולם חשבו שזהו סוף העידן, ואנחנו ראינו כיצד הכלי המדהים הזה עזר לאנשים לתקשר, וכיצד הצרכנים באמת הפכו את האינטרנט למשהו פשוט חיוני, שאינו בר החלפה, שמבסס את הקשר בין המותג, החברה והצרכן, ואם משהו קורה בעולם הזה, זה נוגע לצרכן ולאנשים שמשנים את החברה, שמשתמשים בכלים. כל האנשים האלה הם הרבה לפנינו, אנשי הפרסום, לפני המשווקים, הצרכנים הרבה פעמים אפילו מקדימים את האנשים שמייצרים את המכשירים ואת המוצרים. אני לא חושבת שמרק בעצם ידע בזמנו מה סדר גודל הדבר שהוא בונה, ושהוא יהיה לו מיליארד מנויים, ואנשים אפילו בפנטזיות הכי מופרעות שלהם לא דמיינו בכלל שיהיה להם חברה של יותר מ-200 מיליארד דולר אמריקאי בערכו. אז מה בעצם משתנה? מה שמשתנה הוא העובדה שהכלים הללו, שזה או מכשיר טלפון, או טאבלט, או מחשב, או מסך, לא משנה איזה מוצר, אבל זה משנה את החברה. זה משנה את האופן בו אנשים מתייחסים זה לזה, עורכים קניות, מבדרים, נפגשים עם חברים, או שפשוט עובדים. זה באמת שינוי אדיר ממה שהיינו אפילו לפני מספר מועט של שנים. חייבים להתמודד עם השינוי הזה, וחייבים להתארגן כדי שנוכל, אם ניתן, להיות השותפים הטובים ביותר עבור הצרכן, וזה מה שאנחנו מנסים לעשות מזה כמה זמן, וזה עם גוגל ופייסבוק וכל השחקני ענק הללו שבעצם משחקים תפקיד ענק. אז בעצם זה מאוד מאוד מורכב. זה באותה עת משחק של בעצם מימדי ענק. אנחנו מדברים על מיליארדים, על אינספור מיליארדים של מנויים, של אנשים שמתקשרים, וקשורים זה לזה דרך האינטרנט. זה מאוד מלחיץ מצד אחד, ומאידך אנחנו גם מדברים על יחס של 1 ל-1 באופן אישי, והשילוב הזה של מספרי הענק מצד אחד והתקשורת האחד על אחד האינטימית הזו מצד שני, זה מה שהופך את הגישה החדשה הזו לכל כך מעניינת, מפני אנחנו צריכים לשחק עם המדע, אנחנו צריכים שיהיה לנו יותר אנשי מדע ממה שהיה לנו, אז אנשים שמפתחים אלגוריתמים ומנסים ככה להעמיק ולבחון את התנהגויות הצרכן ולהבין אותם ולהבין איזה דברים מעניינים את הצרכנים, כיצד אנחנו יכולים לתקשר עם הצרכנים מבלי לפלוש לעולמן, כיצד אנחנו נכניס, בלי אובמה, איך הם מכניסים קוקי בלי לצוטט לחיים כמו הנשיא אובמה. מה אתה מתכוון כמו הנשיא? אני מעדיף להיות מסחרי ואח גדול בצורה מסחרית במקום אח גדול בצורה ממשלתית, נאמר. כלומר, אני לא רוצה להציע לך דברים שאתה לא רוצה לקבל. אני רוצה לתת לכם שירות אמיתי, לכם את המידע שאתם צריכים.
Our organization very different from what it was. Obviously, at the core of what we are doing, there is always IQ. We need to understand the strategy of our clients. We need to put a lot of brain to try to understand how we can position the brand differently from the competition and make it winning. TQ, we have to understand the technology, and not only we have to understand, but to play with it. And we have more and more technologies today, and this is something which is even a worry, because we are competing with the people who have big wallets and who can steal our people. The third aspect is EQ, which is probably the most important one, which is the emotional aspect. I think that on IQ and TQ, we can be beaten by any of the big players. They can have more strength, they can have more power, they can create new tools, they can do a lot of things, hire more PhDs. But if there is one thing that they can't do, because it is something which is extremely difficult to do, it is to make the creative people working in those areas in a way which is directed to the need of the brand and reaching out the consumer with the right message. And it is this incredible combination which has made Publicis so successful in the last few years. And what we need to do now, and that is how we see the future, we need to increase our scale. This is a game of scale, and we have spoken about the billion of people and the 100 million subscribers, etc. So we need to be at scale if we want to reach all these people. At the same time, we need to develop new approaches, particularly when it comes to content and to video, which is the most important area of progress for the years to come. And we need to increase our footprint in two very strong pillars, which are digital and emerging markets. This is our strategy. This is what we have been working on since a few years. We have superb relationships with these people who are trying to smash us, because we are just a small company, and they are we have only 58,000 people.
58,000 people. How many you have? He has 6 people.
Yes, but they have the big brains. Huh? We have the legs. But this is what has left us to us. So we need to be at scale and to play at a level which is not considering the platforms as foes, our frenemies, but as partners, true partners with whom we can develop new approaches and with whom we can build a very strong relationship for the future. And we believe very firmly on this, and we believe that we can create value for our clients by dealing on an equal footing with the platform rather than trying to play games and to have a kind of co-petition. I don't believe in co-petition, I believe in collaboration, and I think that that collaboration can create a lot of value for everyone.
Thank you very much.
One word on the awards. We will have our fair share of awards like every year, and today we are the #1 in the gun report. I don't know what will happen tomorrow in Cannes, but I believe that at the end of the year we will be again #1 in the gun report.
Okay. We are not through with Maurice yet. First of all, can you please turn on the light and leave them on? We don't have presentations, so we will have more of a dialogue. Now you see. Maurice, can you tell us what your company is doing in Israel?
Sorry?
What is your activities in Israel? You have a number of subsidiaries.
Yes, we have a great operation in Israel, which is led by Yoram Bowman, and it is called the BBR Group, or the Publicis Group in Israel, with Saatchi & Saatchi, with Publicis. So I don't know if you see the room. I know that he was supposed to be here.
Anybody who is dealing with Publicis, either work or client or supplier, please stand up. Everybody is sitting. Maurice, there's in the office
I will
working,
ask that
you know?
all the people who are close to Publicis, you stay seated. And that is the best way to do it. So we have close to 400 people here, and we have made last year a very strong investment in BBR, and also a minor investment, but symbolically extremely important for all of us, and dear to my heart, because I'm a fervent supporter of peace in Ramallah with an agency called Zoom, and we believe that the collaboration between Zoom and BBR will bear fruit. So we believe that building peace starts by building relationship with the people.
Maurice expects higher degree of applause. You can try to do a better job. Anybody who is supporting of this move of Maurice, please stay seated. Maurice, what is now your digital part in the agency compared to all the...
The market is representing today 16% of digital investment in the total advertising spendings.
60%?
16.
60.
1/6. In Publicis Group, it is 37% of our revenues, which are derived from digital, be it creating website, developing e-commerce, display, video, which is directed on internet, and obviously mobile communication.
37.
And our aim is to be at 50% in 2018.
One caveat to the audience, you have to remember that 73% of all statistics cited by speakers in conferences are invented on the spot.
Except me. I put my imagination in creating campaigns rather than in creating statistics, but I leave to Yossi the right to invent new statistics. And he's very good at that.
Rich, you have a business which is going out of business because the video guys are eating your business. You don't take cookies, you don't take information, you don't spy on people in order to make the advertisement you serve them much better, as they say in this industry, and still the value of your company is growing and growing and growing. What's going on?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, and it's an honor to be here in Israel and at this conference, and thank you for having us here. Second of all, just one brief story before I answer Yossi's question is I had the privilege of hosting Yossi and Dr. Ruth in my kitchen for dinner. And let's just say it was 2X rated to be an IMAX movie. Maybe online, maybe these guys.
You really want to kill my reputation in this country.
So the answer to your question briefly, Yossi, is that people are social animals. And I don't think they want to be chained to their couches, and I don't think they want to be chained to their mobile devices and their tablets. I think they want to go out and they want to interact with other people. And I think they also recognize the fact that people like Steven Spielberg and Jim Cameron may be better at telling a story than a 16-year-old over the internet. So I think the world can exist side by side. And as a matter of fact, it was a perfect lead-in to what I wanted to talk about a little bit, which was that I think you're going to see a bifurcation, in a sense, in the way that...
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the State of Israel, Mr. Shimon Peres. Please be seated. Rich, before you continue, Tim and Maurice, can you reiterate everything you said so the President? Rich, please. Rich Gelfond, the chairman of IMAX.
Boker Tov to the President. Good. And I would like also to tell him that it was a remarkable evening, and this ceremony and this evening is really something which moved every heart.
So, Mr. President, I was just talking about the power of movies versus just staying at home on the internet. And the other evening was an example of an out-of-home experience which could never be replicated in the home. And truly one of the great evenings of my life, and just really shows when you do something right out of the home, that people communicate and socialize and get something very special. So I think actually what's going to happen to the movie business is there's going to be a bit of a bifurcation, which is there are going to be certain kind of movies, like The Artist is a good example, which, it's about plot and it's about acting and it's like an old-fashioned movie. And I think this movie, if you want to watch it on a mobile device or you want to watch it in the movies, it's not so different because it's based on story. And I think people who want to get immersed in story can do that across a variety of platforms. However, I think there are different kinds of movies which are special effects driven, and they're sort of larger than life. And these would be movies like Man of Steel or Iron Man or Batman or the whole superhero genre. And those movies, I think, you really don't capture the spirit of them on a mobile device. I think you really need to see them in a theater to fully appreciate them. And I think in our business, in IMAX, with all the changes in TV and in the home and what's going on with larger screens and better sound systems and gaming and all things like that, I think that provides a lot of wind to our backs, because I think if you're going to leave the home, you're going to want a dramatically different experience than the one that you're going to get in the home. And I think eventually, and maybe this is 10, 20 years from now, the whole mid-level of theaters may change to different formats, because the point would be, if you want to see a spectacle, you'll see it in an IMAX or an IMAX-like theater. Otherwise, it'll be video streamed onto the various devices. Now, the other major impacts, two others that I see happening in the movie business, and they don't really have as much to do with IMAX as they have to do with technology and globalization, is the first one is you're definitely going to see the globalization of entertainment, and you're seeing that happen right now. So, for example, whereas the US used to be about 2/3 of the global box office, it's now 1/3 of the global box office. And no movie is cast in the US or greenlit without accounting for globalization and the rest of the world. So Man of Steel is coming out in Israel. I think it opens today. And Superman's mother from the planet Krypton is a well-known Israeli actress. And that's not an accident. So you see more movies with Chinese people in them, Indian people, where all the markets are going. And I think you're not only going to see Hollywood, I think there's an opportunity for Israel here, as well as many countries, because with this globalization, content is going to flow more freely across borders, and special effects is already becoming more important. And in IMAX, at least, we play Chinese films in the United States. We're opening an Indian film called Doom 3 in Canada and in the United Kingdom. We have a Korean film that we're playing in Japan. And I think you just need to think of the entertainment business in an entirely different way. The last point I want to make is that obviously, because of the whole digital revolution, there's much more of an opportunity for user-generated content. And that is, someone can take out, and they did, there's a movie called Searching for Sugarman, which was nominated for Oscars in the US. I think it might have won one. And it was actually filmed on an iPhone. And I think that the barriers to making movies, which used to exist, which meant you needed expensive equipment, and you needed crews, and you needed lighting, and you needed things like that, the digital era is lowering those barriers and virtually eliminating them. So I think the fact that computer special effects could be generated so inexpensively, and the equipment costs have come down so much, that there's an opportunity for almost anyone to go out and make a movie. And the world is changing so rapidly. The only caveat on that is I think those kinds of movies are more likely to be shown on tablets and on video streaming than in theaters. But I think the world is changing so rapidly, and I think it's a function of, we're here to talk about technology and entertainment, but I think the part of it, maybe that as a group we need to focus on also is globalization and the opportunities that that's presenting for all of us.
Thank you, Rich. Rich, by the way, they like you see? You get sympathy from the other. Rich, there is a story, and I want to verify it, that first time when you saw the iPhone, you didn't exactly knew what it is, but you heard that people are seeing a lot of videos on it, and you went to Steve Jobs to convince him to make an iPhone with a screen size of IMAX. This is true?
It's actually more true than you know, Yossi. Steve Jobs actually called my office, and he called himself, and my secretary asked him to spell his name, and she wouldn't take his call. Otherwise, you might have that product today. Unfortunately, he never got through.
Thank you, Rich. Social media. Social media, very quick, short answer. Where do you see social media going? There are some speculation that people begin to be tired of it, that hours spent are going down. Is it true or not? Tim, Maurice, and Rich.
I'd say very simply, I think the future of social is going to mimic what Rich just talked about and what Maurice talked about, is that people tend to want to live a very rich, full life. And in a rich, full life, I think there's a limited amount of friends and connections you make. And Yossi, you said this to me 5 years ago, I think 4 years ago. There's different vehicles for communicating with people based on different parts of their life. And exactly what you told me 5 years ago has come true, which is the bifurcation of communication by different types of services. So I think the current landscape that's blanketed as social right now will end up being, you'll have services where you have the 8 people in the world you want to keep in touch with all the time, the 50 people in the world at work you want to keep in touch with, and then you'll have mass social, but I think we started at mass social, and I think social is going to go back towards how people really want to live their lives as humans.
Maurice?
Social media is something which is now a part of the life of a lot of people, including when politicians are using Twitter and sometimes creating reactions which are well beyond what they were expecting. In terms of advertising, the model has not yet been invented. The model that we have today is a good one, but it is not yet the model which will take Facebook to the level of Google and this kind of media. There will be probably 2 or 3 areas of improvement. Obviously, the first one is about mobility, because you want to communicate with your friends wherever you are, and how can we use this power with advertising, and this is yet to be found. The second aspect is regarding shopping, and I guess that the recommendation can be extremely useful, provided that we can have a relationship which is not seen as intrusive. And today, there is a lot of people who are reacting negatively when they see that they are mentioning a brand, and suddenly they are getting an ad regarding that brand. So we have to fine-tune this aspect, because we may create a negative reaction. The third one is obviously on video, and there is a new model which is under development. Our agency, Vivaki, has had a great deal and worked very positively with Facebook, and they have created a few criteria which I believe will help greatly to develop the video aspect. So I believe that social media will play an extremely big role in the advertising field, because of the relationship that individuals have between themselves, but we have not yet found the right model.
Thank you. Rich, you are familiar with social media?
I heard it at one of your conferences. I heard you discuss it. But I think there's a pendulum, Yossi, and the media loves to grab on trends. And I think now social media is at one of its high points. So people are saying there will never be any other way to communicate except for social media. As Tim was saying, I think it fits into a landscape. I think, by the way, one really interesting fact in the movie business is there's a thing called tracking, and it tells you how your movie's going to do opening weekend. It's virtually obsolete right now, because what happens is the day a movie opens, everybody goes on social media and they tell their friends. So whatever the advertising campaign was, sorry, Maurice, but it's out the window in the first.
No, okay.
So I think it's going to be a tool, but just saying what I said before, I think with all due respect to my 15-year-old son, I think Steven Spielberg can tell a better story than him. So I think all the options will be on the table.
Yossi, just
Sure.
One more thing on top of that, I think, is the power of social is the power of distribution. And I'll just give you 2 quick examples. Maurice's company just did a really large deal with Twitter over the last, I don't know when it was, last couple months, 2 months ago. Which
we did the deal in April and WPP last week.
is that's powerful because it essentially allows media and advertising to be put directly into social, which I think is powerful. The second piece is social in the enterprise, and Mark Benioff I know is coming up next, but we're a Salesforce customer, and I've been kind of amazed how social and chatter feature and other things that Mark has in his product has affected inside our corporate environment. I think social's talked a lot about on the consumer side. I think social inside of enterprise is interesting, and I haven't talked to Mark about it, but I think that's another big change that's going to come.
Tim, do you allow your employees to see video at work?
Yeah, as long as they share it, if it's really good.
Rich, when people are watching a movie, do they tweet while they watch the movie? Or do they do email or Facebook?
You're already stealing my next idea, Yossi.
What is your next idea, Rich?
Which is, I think they should be allowed to tweet and communicate. What happens is in movie theaters, they don't let people bring their cell phones because they're concerned about piracy and things like that. But I think they're driving away the audience because I think people are used to multitasking now. No one sits around and does one thing. So I think one reason younger people don't go to the movies is because they can't talk to their friends. And I think movies.
But the light of the screen won't disturb the people around you. Maybe you have to allow to do it only with closed screen, you know, with shut screens.
Maybe we'll find a good Israeli technology that can see a way that it doesn't bother anybody around them.
Maurice, you mentioned Twitter. Do you tweet?
I don't.
How many followers you have?
I don't because I'm too impulsive and I'm scared with my spontaneous reaction, so I prefer to control myself by censoring my possibility of reacting spontaneously.
Rich, do you tweet?
I don't, and the reason is that in the course of my business, I have a great life. It's wonderful. I know interesting people, and it's a privacy thing for me. I think it's unfair to other people I'm around to talk about it.
Your son, does he tweet?
He tweets.
Good. Tim, do you tweet?
A little bit. I more follow than I tweet.
Do you use AIM?
Yes, I do.
That's at least this. Do you read the Huffington Post?
I read the Huffington Post.
That's good. Light in the crowd.
More importantly, do you read the Huffington Post?
Sometimes.
Why not all the time?
Because over how you call it, information anxiety.